The next Boston mayor's race is still 2 years out, but there's already talk of a potential challenge to Michelle Wu. It was sparked by an email sent by the local PR firm owned by George Regan promoting a July 22nd event at his home in Mashpee. That message made its way to the Dorchester reporter's Dumcius, who noted the event was already scheduled as a fundraiser for City Council President Ed Flynn and a birthday party for his father, former Boston Mayor Ray Flynn. But on top of that, the email said the event would also launch a new group called Save Our City in an effort to push back against the, quote, ultra-progressive policies at City Hall. Save Our City quickly fell apart, though, after attendees, including Ed Flynn, distanced themselves from the idea. Regan himself said the announcement was a mistake by his secretary and that there is no group, though he also made it clear he does believe the city needs saving. Still, a question raised by the so-called Save Our City push lingers. Will Mayor Wu face a serious challenger when she's up for re-election? Dumcius joins me to discuss, along with Yabu Miller, former senior editor of the Bay State Banner. So in my zeal to talk about the questions raised by this event and to talk about the 2025 race, I might have jumped the gun. I'm assuming that Mayor Wu is, in fact, going to seek re-election. Do we have any reason to think that she might not run again?
No, I mean, part of a subset of the criticism of her and the grumbling in some sectors of the city is, oh, well, she's not going to stay that long, which, from my read of it, that's incorrect. I think she's in it for the long haul. I mean, she's trying to tackle Boston Public Schools, the Boston Planning and Development Agency. Overhauling those takes time. But in terms of her running again, I think most folks I talk to expect her to run for re-election. And
the idea when people say, oh, she's just a short timer, she's not going to be here for the long haul, the idea is that she's going to run for her former law school teacher, Elizabeth Warren's Senate seat, right? That's one of the big theories. Yeah. Okay. Yawu, do you agree with Gin's read on Wu's intentions?
Absolutely. I, for the same reasons that the BRA, or BPDA, Boston Planning and Development Agency redesign was a hallmark of her, her campaign and campaign promise. And if she were to split before that was realized, it would make her look fickle.
So if she does run again in 2025, as you two both think she's likely to do, what kind of a race do you expect her to get? Would you see her running unopposed, her getting a gadfly-type challenger, or her getting a credible challenger who would at least make her break a bit of a sweat on the campaign trail?
I mean, I think her if in the final against Anissa Sabi George, Anissa had come within a few percentage points of Michelle Wu, she might be open to an attack from sort of the right politically, but given that it was pretty much a blowout,
almost 30 points.
Yeah, I mean, it was a landslide.
People, yeah.
It was a landslide. I think she's unassailable there, and barring any scandals or mishaps, political mishaps that would tarnish her reputation, I think she it's very, as we all know, it's very difficult to unseat a sitting mayor in Boston.
When you say she's unassailable there, do you mean to a hypothetical challenge from the right, or to just any challenge, generally speaking?
Just, again, given that, when was the last time a sitting mayor was?
49, right?
1949,
After coming back from prison, after insulting the guy who filled in for him.
Yeah, so 73, 74 years, it hasn't happened. So it's highly unlikely.
Ken, what do you think?
Well, it is possible that she gets someone from her left. I mean, if you look at, Tito Jackson challenged Marty Walsh from the left, and Michael Flaherty, when he ran in 2009, as well as Sam Yoon, challenged Mayor Menino from his left. And
then they joined forces to become Floon, which people can look up at home because it's a weird story.
I still celebrate Floon Day, so. So it's possible she'll get a challenge from the left because there has been, folks upset that she vetoed the elected school committee, that her rent control proposal doesn't go far enough in their eyes. It's possible. You might also get someone, an RFK Jr. type from the local level. She has been getting, harassed by these anti-vax people. So it's very possible that one of them will decide to run in 2025. You've already got two on the city council at large ballot for November.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about specific possible names that might run against her, because to me this is the most enjoyable part of this, is imagining actual concrete matchups. Are there any names that, as you two talk with people about what 25 might look like, any names that people mention? It's possible opponents?
I'll let you go first.
I haven't heard it. No, I haven't heard anything.
You haven't heard anything?
Yeah.
Really? Truly nothing? How about if you haven't heard anything, as you watch the way people are behaving in and around the world of city politics, is there anyone who you find yourself thinking, okay, the fact that he or she said this or did that makes me think that they might be looking at something bigger down the road?
No, I mean, I think, again, I mean, I'm probably prejudiced because, maybe blind to such things, again, because of the historic unassailability of a sitting mayor in Boston. But
that hasn't stopped people from doing it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's been this, as we said at the outset, you got to go back to 49 to find the last time an incumbent lost, and yet people run again and again and again.
including Michelle Wu against Marty Walsh before Marty Walsh said he wasn't running. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Again, what about you? And I'll start throwing out names if it'll help break the ice. When Joan Vanacki from the Boston Globe wrote a column, not looking ahead to 25, but just looking at this Regan event that we mentioned, bouncing off your coverage, she suggested that the event, which was in part a fundraiser for Ed Flynn, the city council president, might have been a sort of a trial balloon aimed at least getting people to think about him as a possible mayoral candidate. You think she might be right about that?
Well, I think, as we've seen from his statements, he's made very clear that he wants to work with the Wu administration, and I get a sense that there's a relationship there. Although, I know mayors and councilors have had relationships until they don't, right? I mean, Mike Flaherty and Mayor Menino had a relationship. Menino helped him on the city council before their break. So, I think there's rumors about Julia Mejia, who's the at-large councilor.
Oh, that's interesting. So that'd be a challenge from the left.
From the left, but it's something that she's in terms of kind of the way she's talked about the mayor during city council meetings, particularly redistricting and the budget. Although I think I one evening while there was one of the meetings was happening, I tweeted to the effect of, it sounds like she's gearing up for a challenge or something like that, and Councilor Mejia reached out to me and said, I'm talking about from the city council floor, so challenging her from the council floor. Which,
tell me if I've got this right, is not quite saying I would never do this.
Correct.
But it's saying at the moment this is what I'm doing.
Right. Well, so, and I would say also, I mean, we are very focused in 2025 here, but we should also acknowledge the elections this fall and how that could really change the trajectory of the city council and have this ripple effect on 2025 in terms of how the at-large councilors do, how many votes they get. Those are closely watched, and in terms of any potential rising stars among the district councilors, how they do. So I'm not to say that a challenge is assured after that, but it's something that people will be watching.
I'm not going to say that Mejia is thinking about it because then there's ramifications just for saying that. But she came within a couple thousand votes of Flaherty, who had an immense campaign war chest. So I mean, it's very possible that she might end up being the top vote getter. Ruth Z could also be more prominent in this at-large election. So I mean, Ruth Z is certainly a rising star on the council, on the at-large council. But again, I'm not saying that either of them is even thinking about running for mayor.
And Louisiane, among other things, took the redistricting mess that was going on and was able to sort of become the person who hashed it out. Is that a fair, or am I oversimplifying there? She was the one who was able to act as sort of the adult in the city council chambers and get it done? Yeah, and she stepped in and she got it done, and she did it by working with pretty much everybody involved, including the Wu administration. The Wu administration wanted to see an end to this redistricting fight as much as anybody. Well, I'm glad you mentioned the implications of this fall's elections, because I would think that even if people, we all think about a lot of stuff without sharing it with people. And if there's a certain way, something that might be on your mind or might be kicking in and out of your consciousness, you're thinking about it might change based on events that happen. And if you run for at-large and, you're the ticket topper by several thousand votes, that might make you think about your future in a way that you haven't up until that point. Let me throw one more name out there before we wrap up. What about Erin Murphy? I feel like she has been, at least, and I'm not immersed in city politics like you two tend to be, but I feel like she has been the most consistent and vocal critic of Mayor Wu's policies across the board for quite some time now. Is she a possible mayoral candidate?
Her base of support is largely in South Boston, the predominantly Irish American parts of Dorchester, basically overlaps with Anissa Sabi George, who, in some way she took her place on the council. And again, George got, thrashed when she ran for the mayoral seat against Wu. So a reason to bet against her if she were to decide to do it, but not if she were to decide to do it, but not necessarily a reason to think she wouldn't. Yeah, she's also followed Wu around the city, like it appears at all the same ribbon cuttings.
You mentioned that to me a while back, and that stuck with me. She shows up and then takes questions and offers criticisms.
Yeah. She's not. Yeah, that's right. So she's with Wu, but she's also, oftentimes, very often on the opposite side of an issue,
which is just fascinating. All right, Yawu Miller, again, Dumcius, we got to leave it there. Thank you both.
Thank you.